Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Kira and I'm so glad that you are here to learn a little bit more about the education world with me. Today I am going to talk about 5 tips for first year teachers, or maybe just teachers who are newer, kind of struggling to find things, and just tips to be successful in the classroom. So it is my second year of teaching. I teach a split class. I have both 4th graders and 5th graders. I teach at a really small school. So things that I say here may not apply to you, but it can get your gears kind of turning and thinking a little bit more. And honestly, I think that it applies to most schools. Anyways, I've got my iPad full of notes and let's get into it. Before I officially start, I just want to make sure that you're subscribed down below and you leave a like on the video. It tells me that you like it. Alright, without further ado, on to the actual video. So my first tip is one that you actually probably hear a ton in these types of videos, and it's about contract hours. This is where things get a little controversial in the education world. Whether do you follow contract hours? Do you stay a little bit later? And I think as a first year teacher, you have to just acknowledge and admit that you're going to stay past contract hours. It is impossible to get everything you need to get done within contract hours in your first year. Even in my second year, I found myself having to stay past contract hours and take things home. And it's just because we're still learning and we're still building our lessons and we're still figuring out our flows, like what works for us, what doesn't. So last year, at the very beginning of the year, I was staying way past contract hours, and I wouldn't set myself a time limit. And that is where my tip comes in with contract hours, is set yourself a time limit. So I would come in half an hour earlier and stay half an hour later. And when I broke it up like that, it felt very more manageable, and it helped me still have that balance, which I'll talk about later. But I was getting what I needed to get done. So I had my 30-minute prep. I did work through my lunch sometimes not. And then I had that 30 minutes in the morning and the 30 minutes in the afternoon. And with that, I didn't have to do much on the weekends that I didn't want to do. With contract hours, it's important to acknowledge that you're only getting paid for this time. But if you see yourself in education for a long time, that extra time that you put in right now is going to really set yourself up for success. There's some things that I didn't do last year. I'm like, meh. And I was like, gosh, I already did this lesson. I should have printed it and saved it. And it was just a whole bunch of debacle that I didn't set my future self up for success. Overall, my tip is acknowledging that contract hours, yes, they do exist, but you're going to have to do more than contract hours your first year or second year, maybe even third year. I don't know, I'm not there yet. But set yourself a time limit. Don't go and stay 2 hours every night on a weekday. Don't go into the classroom on a Saturday, right? Set yourself those time limits and follow them. Tip 2 actually has to do with our lovely friend, Teachers Pay Teachers. Gosh, I wish this was sponsored because I spend so much money there, but it's not. So Teachers Pay Teachers, if you don't know, is this great site where you can look up literally anything that you have in your mind for a lesson plan. You can look it up and you can pay a reasonable amount. It's like, the prices vary, but they're always reasonable. They're nothing crazy. It's other teachers create these lessons plans, they upload them, then you buy them and use them. So this is like a 2-parter. Yes, it's great to have those resources and buy them, but it's also great to look at and kind of brainstorm for what you're going to do yourself. So I found myself a lot of times last year, I want to create these fun and engaging activities, but I didn't know how. So I would type in 5th grade persuasive essay unit, and I would just scroll, like what's being sold, what's the top rated, and I'd find cool activities and cool lessons to go along that, and I would take inspiration from these other activities and spin them and be able to make them my own. So without spending the money, and it wasn't exactly what that person was doing, so it was it's not like copyright or anything. It's like taking an inspiration. So, oh, I see that they did this classroom walkthrough with A, B, C. I would say, oh, I could do a classroom walkthrough. That's great. And then I'd pull my own resources. I'd create everything myself, and then I'd do that. So for me, I really pride myself on having fun and engaging lessons, or at least I try to. And Teachers Pay Teachers was a way for me to draw inspiration on how to get these creative and engaging lessons. Without that, I would have been staring at the wall and been like, yeah. So Teachers Pay Teachers is great for if you're in a pinch and you need to buy a lesson. And it is also great for drawing inspiration on creating your own lessons if you don't want to spend money and you're okay with spending a little bit more time on it. Number 3. And this is something that I've really been diving into more this year than last year because it's always easier said than done. But finding that work-life balance. In the education field, it's really, really hard to separate yourself from work. You know, my boyfriend comes home from work, he's like, yeah, it was a work day, and then he just goes on with his night, and he doesn't think about work. For us, it's a little bit different. You think about Susie, and you think about Johnny, and you think about, are the kids doing their homework? Do they have enough to eat tonight? Did I overreact to this? Oh my gosh, I said that I'd let them go to the bathroom in 5 minutes, and I never let them do that, right? Like, education overtakes your conscious mind, and it's hard. It's hard to find that balance, but you need to be intentional about doing things for you. So, for example, one of the things that is doing things for me is this YouTube channel. I have always been a creative person. I've always made videos. I was voted most likely to become internet famous in high school, so this has been something that I enjoy doing for a very, very long time. And finally I was like, I am going to really dive deep into that this year, this 2025 upcoming year. And that's simply because I want something else to focus on other than work. And yes, I know the lines are kind of blurred because it's a teaching channel, but not all of my videos are about teaching. So finding that balance is important, whether that's working out, whether that's going out to the bar with your friends, whether that's taking your dog for a walk, volunteering somewhere. It's just finding something to do other than sit on your couch and think about work. This is a mini tip, so it's not counted in my 5 tips. A mini tip is use the time in your car productively. So I don't know about you, but I count like my commute to work as work. Like if somebody asks me, what time do you work? If my contract hours start at 8, I'm going to say, 7:30 because it takes me about 20 minutes to get to work. So I have to leave my house at 7:30. So that's when work starts for me, 7:30. So use that time wisely. I have Spotify Premium and you get audiobooks as a part of that. So I listen to teaching audiobooks. This is what I'm listening to right now. And I love this guy's accent a lot, so I really enjoy listening to this book. And I have implemented some of the techniques and tips that they talk about for classroom management, and it works. Like, it's crazy. So, and I'm not spending any extra time. It's like, do I want to listen to Justin Bieber, or do I want to learn a little bit more about how to be successful? So I always suggest audiobooks in the morning, and then the afternoon is your time to jam out and listen to whatever music you want, because that's work-life balance, right? Listen to whatever music you want in the afternoon because work is done. So there's my mini tip. Listen to audiobooks on the way to work that help you with teaching. Okay, tip number 4. My 4th tip is to create a why book. I wish that I had my why book here, but it's at school because that's where I need it to be. And whenever I feel very frustrated or overwhelmed or emotional, I go back to this book. And this book is filled with pictures and notes that my students have written me and notes from other like teachers that acknowledge like what I'm doing in my classroom and that they think that I'm a great teacher, or students telling me that I'm their favorite teacher ever, or pictures that they've drawn or pictures that I've taken of a really fun day. And it's just a time to remind yourself of why you're in education. You can talk to any teacher, and that at one point in their life they have wanted to quit. Probably like multiple times a year. Especially with how education is right now in today's society, teachers want to quit. You can see that, the mass exodus of teachers leaving. And it's important to remind yourself of why you went into education in the first place, why you wanted to become a teacher, or why you stayed. I think it's, having my why book is not something that I use very often, but that's because I know in the back of my mind that there's a reason I'm doing this. And yes, days and weeks and months may be hard, but you always fall back to that why. And this is not me telling you that you have to stay in education. Sometimes your why just isn't enough anymore, and that's okay. But for a majority of us, that why is really important to keep us in education. If you ever get to the point where your why isn't good enough anymore, I would suggest leaving that school and trying a different school before you just leave the profession altogether. I'm in a lot of Facebook groups, and a lot of times people say it was just that administration or just that school atmosphere. I love my job now at this new job, and I worked at the same school for 2 years. I love it. So I can't really speak on that, but join Facebook groups. Mini tip number 2. Mini tip number 2, join Facebook groups. If you're on Facebook, I love Facebook groups. They really give that insight of, what am I doing? Who should I talk to about this? This happened in class, who should I talk to? I love Facebook groups because it's veteran teachers, it's new teachers, and we're all just mingling and talking and helping each other. So definitely get into those Facebook groups. My very last tip number 5, is something that I wish I could have told myself last year. And that is, stay organized. Do not tell yourself, oh, I'll create a system to organize that later. No. Sit down. Like the very first thing, I know when teachers want to get into their classrooms, they want to decorate, they want to make it cute. No. Create an organization system. I mentioned this earlier in the video, but last year I would create all these lessons, and then I would just give them to my students. The extras I would recycle, and that was that. And now this year, I'm coming back, and I'm like, I already did this lesson plan. And I'm like trying to scroll through my computer, my Google Drive, like trying to find where it was. But if I just had like a folder that said like food chains, and then it had all my food chain assignments in that folder, I would have saved so much time. There's a couple that I just couldn't find this year, and I had to recreate them. And like, that sucks. If I was better organized, it would have been amazing because I would have spent less time recreating these assignments, which looking back at it is always like, ugh. But I did it, and I learned the hard way to stay better organized. So now I have those folders, and as I'm going throughout the year and I'm refinding the documents, or I'm having to make them again, or something didn't work, whatever, I'm putting them in the folders. So next year, my 3rd year, I'll just be able to grab the lesson plans and tweak it a little bit to each student or each class, right? And go. So stay organized. Please, please, please stay organized. Do not do what I did. It created so much heartache and just like some extra stress that I did not need. Have fun with it, right? Jobs should be fun. You should enjoy your job. Your first year is always going to be something that you always remember. People told me that all the time. Is going to be something that you never forget your first year. So just have fun, and you're going to make mistakes. It's going to happen. If you are blessed to have a mentor teacher, rely on them. If you were like me and didn't have a mentor teacher and you kind of just got thrown into it and said, good luck, let's use my comment sections down below. If you have questions, I can answer them. Other educators can answer them. Rely on the people around you. That's really important. Maybe that's my mini tip number 3. Have a good support system, whether that's significant others, whether that's your parents, whether it's just other educators on the internet. Have a good support system. We are here for you. We're rooting for you. And honestly, we want education to succeed, or else we wouldn't go into this career. So don't feel like you're alone. If you have questions, if you just need somebody to rant to, like, do it. Ranting is amazing. Alright guys, so there were my 5 tips for first year teachers and a couple of mini tips thrown in there too. I hope that you enjoyed this video and it's helpful going into your first year of teaching. If there's anything you think that I may have missed, leave a comment in the comment section down below. Or if you try out any of these tips and they help, do the same thing. Let me know. Make sure you give this video a big like and subscribe to my channel. Like I said, one of my goals going into 2025 is to make weekly videos here on YouTube, and I can't do that without you subscribing and supporting. Make sure you're following me on Instagram, you're following me on TikTok, and my Amazon wishlist is always linked down below, just in case you want to come and check it out. Alright, bye guys, I love you so much. Keep teaching and keep loving on those littles, and I will see you next time. Bye!